I need a quick haircut.
All right. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
We rolling? We are. We're here at Jazz Live San Diego with Barry Farrar and Scott Kyle of the Jazz 88 All-Stars. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good.
Good to see you, Vince.
So, Barry, tell us a little bit about the Jazz 88 All-Stars. How and why did the Jazz 88 All-Stars form?
Originally, we put the band together for the instrumental music program, where we get the instruments donated for kids that don't have instruments, and we did a TV spot to kind of help advertise for bringing in instruments for kids that don't have them, and did the TV spot, and everything kind of evolved from there. We started doing shows and concerts, and you know, that was like over 10 years ago.
Over 10 years ago. So tell us who are the members of the Jazz 88 All-Stars, at least today, because I hear there's a few little movements in that.
Well, yeah, the basic band is the same, with Nikon Zlatkovic on piano, Bill Andrews on bass, Bob Campbell on saxophone, Steve Ebner on trumpet, Bill Andrews on bass. Did I say that already?
You did.
Yes, I did. And myself on drums.
Excellent. And so that's been the lineup for most
Yeah,
of that
it's
time.
evolved over the years a little bit here and there, but that's what we've had for quite a few years now. And tonight's extra special because we have Scott Kyle with us on trombone.
Well, Scott, welcome to Jazz 88 again.
Thanks, glad to be here.
And so, Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself. You live here in San Diego and play?
I do. I live here. I moved to San Diego about 10 years ago. I actually took a detour from my musical career and lived in Arizona for a while before that, but I grew up in the LA area and had the good fortune to be raised in Seal Beach, where there was a teacher at the school there, Chuck Wackerman, who had a great jazz program, and he exposed everybody in the town to jazz at a young age. And so from 5th grade on, I was kind of immersed in jazz and playing with excellent musicians around other really good players that were inspirational. So I just stuck with it and started gigging. Basically, even in junior high school, I was gigging, and all through high school, and actually put myself through college doing that at UCLA. But at some point, I decided that to be a player, you didn't necessarily need to be a music major. So I ended up getting an economics degree as well. Just like Alex Isles, who's another trombone player that I went to school with up at UCLA, who's a fellow professional. But anyway, I moved to San Diego about 10 years ago, and I'm glad to be here. I've been listening to your station that entire time. It's wonderful to be sitting here in the studio talking to you guys. Looking forward to tonight. It's going to be a blast.
Excellent. Well, Barry, I know that the subject of tonight's show, Art Blakey, is something near and dear to you. Tell us, first off, how did you come up with the idea to do a tribute, or how are you stating what tonight's show is?
Well, Art Blakey is one of the innovators. You know, after Kenny Clarke, he was the next guy that started the bebop sound. And I mean, he's known as the University of Art Blakey. And if you look at the list of musicians that came through the Jazz Messengers, it's unbelievable. I mean, just the trumpeters alone: Kenny Dorham, Lee Morgan, Freddie Hubbard, Wallace Roney, Clifford Brown, Donald Byrd, Woody Shaw, Brian Lynch, Terrence Blanchard, and Wynton Marsalis. That's just, I mean, these guys are all big-time leaders in their own right. So when you say the University of Art Blakey, there's a reason behind it. I mean, I could go and I have a full list here of many others that are just legends in jazz that came through the Messengers. Mm-hmm. And Horace Silver was one of the original members, founding members with Blakey. Started the band in 1948. Not any recording going on until 56, but the Messengers started playing in 48, and Horace Silver was the original piano player. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Blakey being a drummer and you being a drummer,
well, yeah.
I can totally see the affinity there. But I heard, I don't know how much you know about Blakey and his history, but I heard that he actually was a pianist before he was
right. That
a
is
drummer.
Such a funny story. And, you know, Art told me that story sitting right here in the air booth.
Wow.
And it's, you know, a lot of people doubt me when I tell this, but I've seen it written and printed in many different magazines, and it's true. Back when Art Blakey was a teenager, he was a piano player, and he was playing in little speakeasies, Mafia Run, in Pittsburgh. And one day, one of the mafiosos came up, and a 44 Magnum is what it was, put to his head, and he was told, "You are now going to be the drummer." And he pointed at the guy that was playing drums. He said, "You're playing piano." Guess who that was? Errol Garner. So Errol Garner, they switched places, and what do we come up with? One of the greatest drummers of all time, and obviously one of the great piano players, Errol Garner. Great story.
Yeah, and I had heard like a different version of that Art said that he felt like he couldn't keep up with Errol Garner as a pianist, so that's why he switched to drums. But I actually like the gun to the head story.
Well, you know what? That part of it was
better.
true. There was, when Art first switched to drums, Art wasn't cutting it.
Right.
He had to like take some lessons and listen to Kenny Clark and learn about dropping the bombs and all that stuff. I was reading about that earlier, I think this morning, and just kind of refreshing my memory. But,
Right.
you know, I do percussive profiles, and I'm always focusing on the great drummers. And man, I want to do Art Blakey more than once a year. I love Art Blakey. Buhena, just great drummer. And
Speaking of percussive profiles, tell people when percussive profiles is on Jazz 88.
it's on Thursdays at 8 p.m., 8 till 10 every week, and you know, we focus on the great drummers that either celebrate their birth, have a new release, coming to town. Depends, but it's always something great. Every week it's just a pleasure coming right from my heart.
Excellent. Well, Scott, Barry might even have these in his list, but I know some of the great trombonists, like Curtis Fuller, came through
Exactly.
Blakey's band and the Messengers. How did you get introduced to the music of Art Blakey?
Well, believe it or not, it wasn't. I haven't spent most of my time studying trombone players becoming a jazz musician. I've actually studied trumpet, piano, and sax players more than trombonists. But through that, I came to know and love Curtis Fuller's playing. But really, I think Hank Mobley, who played with Kenny Dorham with Blakey for a number of years, was my window into the Jazz Messengers, because I was transcribing some solos to learn how to play jazz, and it seemed like everything that guy played just laid out really well on the trombone. And it was a way, if you want to take trombone playing to maybe a little higher level than history has brought us to so far. Back in the 70s, you're going to study sax and trumpet players.
Right.
I mean, nowadays there are a ton of guys that can play a lot of notes on a trombone, but back then it was kind of a new and unique thing. So,
Right.
so anyway, I was, and back in high school, I was listening to Freddie Hubbard and just going, oh man, that's what I want to do, And then of course it expanded out from there, with Herbie, and I went to go see VSOP when they came through at
Right.
the Hollywood Bowl. It was, but those are the guys that are, I think, that turned jazz into a true art form in the modern era, and really inspired me.
Yeah. I was since we were talking about Curtis Fuller, I was looking at some of the list of the people that Blakey had played with, and he played with Fuller, who is a Jazz Live alum. He played here at Jazz Live, and Cedar Walton was another Jazz Live alum that played here. Another Art Blakey alum that played here at Jazz Live. So we've got some connections here at Jazz Live San Diego to Blakey. Barry, you mentioned Blakey learning to drop the bomb. For some of us who might not know exactly what that is, I mean, we've heard, that the influence of Blakey and how he did his cymbals and the hi-hat and those kind of things. For you as a drummer and an aficionado of drumming, what was it about Blakey that he brought that was new? That he put on top of the Kenny Clark that he listened to, for instance.
Well, the bomb dropping was Kenny Clark's thing, but Blakey picked that up, and that's a loud beat on the bass drum, like in the middle of a phrase, and so Blakey picked that up. But Blakey was known for incredible thunderous rolls and cymbals, just like sounds like a brush fire, just building, just the way he gets his cymbals built up, and. I mean, the list, I just mentioned the trumpet players, the guys that came through that band,
Right.
The Marsalis brothers, Wayne Shorter, James Williams, Donald Harrison, Bobby Watson, and, it's just, I mean, I could go on for hours with the great people that came through that band. But, I want to talk about Scott for a second, if you let me.
Please.
Scott is very humble, and this guy, first of all, he teaches at SDSU in the Jazz Studies program. He's a master trombonist. And just a little partial list of the people he's performed with, just so people know. Big bands: Louis Bellson, Buddy Rich, Stan Kenton, Sammy Nestico. Also worked with Clark Terry, George Duke. He's off and on with Tom Cuba's big band these days, Bob Magnuson, Roger Kellaway, Charles McPherson, and John Patitucci.
Wow, that's
Yeah, he's
quite
got
a,
some
quite a
credit, so
lineup,
we're
Scott.
real excited to have him playing with the Jazz Messengers
Right,
tonight.
right. You talked a little bit about the University of Blakey, and Blakey's I had read something. He said he was going to stick with the younger guys. That, his thing was, I'm sticking with the younger guys, and even when the Messengers were formed, Horace Silver was 9 years younger than Blakey. Johnny Griffin 10 years younger. Clifford Brown 11 years younger. And then as it gets into more modern times, Lee Morgan was 19 years younger than Blakey. So he really did want to be around younger musicians, and,
Right,
and
exactly.
do that.
That's what he was known for. He would discover the young up-and-coming cats, okay? Brian Lynch, who was just here the other night, was very young when he worked with Blakey's Messengers. And the Marsalis brothers. Wynton, that's how Wynton got discovered, playing with Jazz Messengers. Right. Yeah.
And he went on to be musical director for the Messengers also.
And that's what Blakey prided himself on, is finding the young talent. And, we mentioned all these names. They're all leaders, and a lot of them are legends in the jazz world.
Mm-hmm. Well, Scott, as we're wrapping things up here, is there where do you play in town? Do you have a regular gig in town, or?
Yeah, I play with the Brad Steinway Jazz Orchestra on a regular basis, which is a local big band, and we like to think of ourselves as maybe the top echelon band in town in terms of modern jazz music. So we hit all of the jazz festivals for the kids, and the high school and college kids, and even junior high kids that are happening throughout the school year. Do fundraisers for the schools and try to perform as kind of the final evening concert at their jazz festivals quite often. And then I do a lot of other freelance work around town, including just appearing as a guest artist, such as I am tonight, as a soloist primarily, with different bands around town. And then I also have my own quintet, and I've released 2 CDs as a leader, and that's gone pretty well. Going to make another recording this summer, and actually another one of the Brad Steinway Jazz Orchestra big band albums is coming out in the fall. We're going to have a CD release party at Izzy's in
Excellent.
early October.
Well, we'll be definitely looking for that. Is there a place on the internet where people can find out more information about you or your music?
www.scottkylejazz.com.
Excellent. And Barry, tell us a little bit about kind of where the Jazz 88 All-Stars are going. Do you guys have, it's not like a set regular gigs that you have, but plans for the All-Stars?
We all work in a lot of bands,
Right.
okay? We're all working musicians, and we do appearances here and there. We don't have that much right now. Some of the jazz festivals that aren't going any longer, it's kind of cut us back. But, the trio, the rhythm section, is a band in itself. Mekon, Bill Andrews, and I have a new band called Lower Left, and we have a new release that's going to be here in about a week. I get them next Wednesday.
Excellent.
And we've got new CD release parties popping up around town here in the next month or so, and we're all excited about that. And
what's the focus of that disc? Is it?
it's trio and mostly standards, but done with different twists. We take some monk tunes and put a funk groove on them. We take some Joe Beam bossa novas and put funk on them and swing on them. We mix it up. And then we always do Mekon's original. We love that, and we're going to be doing that tonight. But I want to say one more thing. Scott was a natural choice because we have these 3 horn parts from Blakey's book that we needed an extra horn and trombone to emulate the Curtis Fuller sound. So we chose Scott, and we were very happy that he said yes.
Excellent. Well, Barry, I don't believe there's a website for the Jazz 88 All-Stars. Is there a place where people can find out more about you and your music?
Yeah, I'm in the process of developing. I've already got the domain, barryfarrarmusic.com, and the All-Stars disc and also Lower Left will be available at that site.
Well, excellent. Well, again, it's an honor to have you guys here at Jazz Live San Diego. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, while I have you,